Hello. How are you doing today, Austin?
Very good. How about yourself, Jonah?
I'm doing good. I've been practicing my radio voice, so
okay.
let me know how this goes. You are now listening to the FortCast, brought to you by JBJ Management. The FortCast is produced and edited by John Christopher Edmonds and written by Austin Hood and Jonah Murray.
Ooh, okay. Very smooth. I
Thank
like
you.
that. Yes.
I've been practicing.
I could listen to that. I like that. That's very good.
Cool. I also wanted to do things in the correct order this time, so I had my little outline right here. So howdy everyone, and welcome to the FortCast. We are your local source for all things Fort Worth and Tarrant County. Born and raised in the Fort, I'm your host, Jonah Murray, and this week on the FortCast, we'll be covering the stories most worth your time from November 10th to the 21st. So first up, we have our worthy news. I wanted to briefly cover COVID-19. So a few days ago, the CDC officially approved boosters for everyone 18 and above. And as the holiday winter flu seasons are upon us, Dr. Fauci and other medical professionals, including Public Health Director Vinita Neha, who's talked to the Star Telegram recently, are saying to get your booster ASAP if you can in order to protect yourself and your loved ones this holiday season.
Yeah, I was getting emails from my medical provider. They're like, all right, we're ready to go. Come on in, get them, and so everyone was sending out all the emails. And I'm like, okay, all right, I got it. But yeah, it is a big public health push to make sure everyone gets can get a booster, should get one before this big holiday season when everyone's probably going to be traveling and seeing family.
Yeah. I'm definitely someone who needs reminders all of the time because bird brain forgets.
Yes.
I don't know. But yeah, so I just wanted to mention that. Next up, some important local news. Ron Gentry had recently passed away. He was an important member of the Fort Worth community. So if you don't know, Ron Gentry helped found Kincaid's Hamburgers, the restaurant chain. He inherited the family business from his father, and his two sons and wife are now continuing to run the business. But he used to be a pharmacist, but kind of did this business, and then it became kind of like his main job.
Oh, how interesting. A pharmacist. I mean, it kind of makes sense, like the old drugstores, where you would, there would also be like hamburger shops or something like that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's like a connection. I don't know if he had.
Well, it's really cool because, so the original Kincaid's is on Camp Bowie in Fort Worth.
Oh, okay.
But all of the interiors look like old grocery stores. And so when you're waiting in line, you are at these like counters, and there's all this like old kind of retro memorabilia stuff, and it's just really cool. And so like their kind of tagline is Kincaid's is the place where friends meet to eat, and so it's a really like community staple in Fort Worth. So they had a memorial service for him. They had a really nice musical prelude of some classic Beatles songs, All You Need Is Love and Here Comes the Sun, which encapsulated his love of classic rock, his perspective on life, and the effect that he had on others. So it was a really beautiful service. And so the next time you're craving a burger and fries, I'd say remember Ron Gentry and hit up Kincaid's.
All right. Yeah, I'll have to do that next time I'm in Fort Worth.
Okay, awesome. So I think what's up next is something we both have some info on, the Fort Worth redistricting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So would you mind giving a little bit of background on kind of why this is happening right now?
Yes. Redistricting is a process that happens every 10 years. After the census is taken, almost every single political body in the country goes through a process called redistricting, where they redraw all the districts to try and make them equal in population to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that's everything from the state went through that earlier this year. Cities are currently doing that for their council districts. Counties are doing it for the county judge seat or the commissioner seats, school boards, community college districts. Pretty much anywhere that has elected officials is going through this process right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important to be paying attention, because that is where you're going to be voting.
Right.
So you need to know who's going to be your new representatives, which districts are going to be. If you want to keep, who you've had, you need to be involved in that process. Or if you want to try and make, especially for some of them that we're going to be talking about, are making whole new districts. We had in Texas 2 new congressional districts.
That's right.
So that, you know, here's a full new representative for us. And so it's about where we can group these things together, not just for like equal population, but for people that have, they're called communities of interest, you know, people that have things that draw them together. And so they should be able to vote to represent them as a whole instead of being, you know, spread out over multiple districts.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So that really lines up with this redistricting city council meeting that I attended last week. Well, I watched it online, but
as much of our participation has been in the last few years, as a lot of it's been online. Yes.
Right. Yeah. No, I felt like I was back in Zoom University. But yeah, so there was a little bit of a different process this year with submitting maps for the redistricting. So there's a task force that has the final say over all of this. And that was made very clear. However, the old process was that city staff would draw up a map and submit that to the task force. However, what happened this year is city council held training sessions for community members on the guidelines of how to draw a districting map. And then there were 18 maps that community members submitted for consideration to city council. And then at this meeting on November 16th, they voted on one map to be the one that they recommend as a city council to the redistricting task force. And so it passed 5-4. Exhibit E was the name of the map. But it was made, again, very clear that the task force does have the final say and that this was simply a new process to let Fort Worthians have a say in how they're being represented in this political districting. And there was one council member, Carlos Flores, who stated that he didn't want to vote on a map that day because there are so many details to consider, but that he is in support of this process of allowing the community to have a say in how they're being represented. So Flores also said that he was glad that city council is working for this process to ultimately result in an equitable representation of Fort Worth's community. And he also said that he wants to see 2 Hispanic majority districts because of population growth in Fort Worth.
I think it's really great that they had that task force, or that they were giving training out to citizens so that they would know actually like what the criteria is, how to draw the maps, how to use the software. Because too often, even though that there are other cities and other times that they've accepted maps from the public, too often they have, you know, failed to meet some kind of criteria and are automatically rejected. And so it's almost always either city staff or like whatever consulting company, or, you know, it's almost always goes back to, okay, well, whoever the official one is the one we're going to go with. But here they're actually giving like public real input and be like, hey, here's how you do it. And here's all the considerations, you know, here's the tools to actually make a map. And then they're able to submit it. You're like, okay, this one actually already fits all of our legal obligations. And now we can just look at it from a purely, you know, community interest standpoint. Yeah.
And the other really interesting thing that happened in this meeting is after they voted on the map that they were going to recommend, city council also passed a motion that basically said city staff won't be drawing maps for this. So it was a new resolution that city staff not submit a map to the task force. So it seems like this is going to be the new process, at least for the foreseeable future. But again, this happens every 10 years.
So a lot can change, but I think it's a good sign, certainly. And I know that the task force is going to be holding some community meetings coming up.
I am not
I think I had that somewhere. It looks like the task force is going to be holding a community meeting on December 8th. That's going to be at the city council chambers. And then I know that the council, once they get their final map, or proposed map from the task force, will be holding public meetings in January and February to get more community input on that and to make any adjustments to that map before finally voting for it in I think the end of February is when the final map should be going through.
Okay. So is that about the time that, are we going to have these new districts by the time there's elections in May or primaries?
Yes. But those elections won't be May of 22. They will be May of 23.
Okay.
So yes, they will definitely be in place by then. And I buried the lead earlier, but it's Fort Worth that's going to be getting 2 new city council districts.
Okay.
So you currently have 8, and it'll be going to 10. So a full council of 11 with the mayor. So that is going to be 2 full new districts somewhere, in the city that, we're going to be having new council members. So it'll really increase the power of like districts or like, the actual communities of interest there. So it'll be interesting to see where those 2 new districts end up.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Do you have anything else on redistricting?
No, I think that's probably good. But as long as I'm already talking, we can talk a little bit more about politics and kind of expand a little bit more statewide.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
I think probably a lot of people have heard that Beto O'Rourke is throwing his hat in the ring for governor.
He sure is.
This is, he's rose to fame in 2018 by running against Senator Cruz. He was just a congressman from El Paso that pretty much anyone outside of, the very edge of Texas had no idea who he was.
Right.
But he ran a campaign that went to every single county in Texas and really got his name recognition up there. Excuse me. And he was able to do a lot to, even though he lost, obviously, he was able to drum up so much support and get so much voter turnout that he was widely credited for getting a lot of down ballot Democrats elected in that wave of 2018.
Yeah. So he actually won Tarrant County by a slim margin, but
still significant that he won Tarrant County.
Yes, because Tarrant County is very, very purple, which has been kind of a more recent development. But yes, it has been studied that he had a significant impact on kind of Democratic voting in the area.
Yeah, it's going to be a much different race for governor. However, Governor Abbott is not going to take this lying down. He's already coming out with some attack ads. He is very aware of Congressman O'Rourke's ability to get voter turnout up. So he is already on the attack. And so Congressman O'Rourke is going to have a harder time, having to defend some comments that he made when he ran for president in 2020. He was running on the national stage. So when you come back home, some of those comments can come back to bite you.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see how he responds to some of those.
Yeah. And I was reading as well that politicians who have lost 2 or more elections often don't run again. And so he's coming off of this history that is maybe not so good as a predictor, but it is pandemic times and crazy stuff.
Yeah,
crazy stuff can happen.
Can't rule him out right now. Definitely not. And certainly the Democrats are happy to have him in the race because they need somebody to be at the top and at the front to energize people, especially for those down ballot races that they may stand even a greater chance of getting. So I know that the Democrats are very excited that he's in the race. So hopefully you're not tired of politics because this 2022 race is just getting started. Primaries are in March 1st, and then the general election is next November, which even though it's a year away, I also say it's only a year away.
It is only a year away. Yeah, it comes quicker than you think, for sure.
Definitely.
Yes. So speaking of Beto's history with Senator Cruz, I wanted to touch on that a little bit because I don't know if you've heard, Austin, about Cruz's Big Bird tweet.
Yes. Response to Big Bird's tweet.
Yes.
I actually didn't know that Big Bird was on Twitter. I thought,
well, he is a bird.
Yeah,
so
that is true. I guess, is there an age restriction to be on Twitter? I thought
I don't know.
He's canonically 6, I think.
I mean,
because he just got the
no idea.
COVID vaccine, and Yeah, I don't know. But yes, I didn't know he was on Twitter until suddenly
there he was.
one of my senators was tweeting at him, and I was like, oh, I guess Big Bird is on Twitter. He does have that blue check mark.
Yeah. So if anyone doesn't know, Big Bird got the COVID-19 vaccine and tweeted about it, and then Senator Cruz responded to that saying, oh, look, government propaganda for your 5-year-old. Which, if you're anything like me, Austin, you saw that and you thought, who in their right or left political mind would say something like that? This is Sesame Street. It's the Muppets. This is the furthest from kind of government propaganda that you could get, because Sesame Street is a nonprofit, and their finances are very public. I mean, I looked up their donations and where they come from, and some of it is from like governmental organizations or agencies, but it's all very like clear cut. So I'm
impressed that you went through to do that. I would not have actually thought to do that. So that's good that you're actually checking to make sure that and let's actually check where the money's coming from, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I've done research before on government propaganda in college and in high school, and I've been working on a personal project too, diving into Hollywood and how kind of corrupted by like government money and the world wars impact on technology and using films as military and government propaganda. I could go on.
Yeah, I was like, oh wait, let's dive down on this. Wait. What were we talking about?
I'm getting off topic, but yes. So it seems like tweeting something like that would be kind of political suicide. But the thing is, Cruz is a professional politician, and every move he makes, he knows exactly what he is doing, and he's achieving exactly what he wants to do. So, for example, he, with most of his statements, is creating a sort of division. And the thing is, division is not intrinsically a bad thing, but having divided groups that represent different interests is really important. But I think in our current political climate in America, more division is not what we need, but that's kind of what Cruz is doing. So an example would be a few weeks back, Cruz introduced a measure in Congress to address immigration in Texas, and that plan included establishing immigration processing centers in places across the country, including in Massachusetts, California, Rhode Island. And so that would have required immigrants to be moved from Texas to those processing centers all across the country. And he knew that this would never get passed in Congress, but his point is to make a point, and make a point he sure did. So
that is certainly true.
Excuse me. So after he kind of proposed this measure on Fox News, Cruz said, "How exactly do you think the rich, stuck-up liberals in Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard would react if they saw 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 illegal aliens being dropped off week after week in the vineyard?" So this statement is jam-packed with buzzwords and buzz phrases. So rich, stuck-up liberals and illegal aliens, and he's also pointing fingers at the white upper-class residents of areas like Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. But like I said before, Cruz is a professional politician, and a statement like this does exactly what it is designed to do. So it creates division, and that's because it makes Cruz's supporters feel validated and invigorated, and it makes his opponents feel indignant and defensive. And it makes people who might otherwise be neutral feel like they have to kind of choose a side. And I'll give an example. Say that I wasn't a Texan, and I had no idea who Cruz was, but I saw this statement on the news. With such politically charged wording, and in our extremely polarized political climate already in the United States, it would be almost impossible for me not to pick a side. either taking the side of Texans being affected by immigration or of the liberal people that Cruz is backbiting. And depending on my socioeconomic status, I would likely identify more closely with one of those two groups. And so that's who I would support in this argument. And the thing is, Cruz wants to make a point, and even if it doesn't bring about, results, and that's really frustrating to me. And the reason is because the thing I find so frustrating is that beneath all of those buzzwords and all of that, all of the mudslinging, is that Cruz has a fair point just hiding underneath all of that, and that's that Texas has an immigration crisis. The state can't handle this on its own. Texas occupies over half of the U.S.-Mexico border, and so we get a larger proportion of immigrants. But that's the thing, it's the U.S.-Mexico border, right? So doesn't it seem equitable that the United States government should have a responsibility to ensure that immigrants are being treated well and that Texas has the resources it needs to deal with it? Dealing with immigration takes money, it takes space, it takes resources in order to make sure these people are being treated well and fairly. And Texas might have a large economy, right? But I think it's fair to say that we need help in order to make sure that immigrants are being treated well and that we handle immigration ethically and equitably in the United States.
It goes to show that when you see a tweet like that, it's not really just about that. Mm-hmm. You're talking on multiple different levels. And I think that, Cruz knows that the audience here it's not kids. It's mm-hmm. We're talking to parents. We're talking to, adults, and we're talking not just about Sesame Street or COVID. We're talking about like the larger political mm-hmm. Sphere that our country is operating in right now. Yeah. So I think, it's important when you read those things, not to just take it only at face value, but to see the full picture behind what is going on in those types of communications. Yeah.
It takes a sharp eye to and a calm mind to look mm-hmm. behind all the buzzwords.
Any kind of inflammatory rhetoric, certainly.
Yes. Yeah. So I wish that generally our political climate would try to be a little more, informational rather than polarizing. But this is the world that we're in right now. So I think it's kind of up to us as citizens to try and make it a little more fair when we can.
Yeah, I think that's the responsibility of living in a democracy, is that we have to pay attention to what's going on in the world around us.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's what I had for my commentary there.
Hopefully that was like responsibility, but also like privilege too. I'm like trying to put that more on an upbeat, like
we're having a great time here.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we can say that. Right?
No, and
it's almost Thanksgiving here. It is. So that's good. We're thankful to be here. We're thankful mm-hmm. to be going with our families soon. So we ended on that note, right?
Yeah. We're thankful to be able to have access to boosters if we can, and flu shots. I got my flu shot last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
Yeah, I was home with the aches on Saturday, but it's fine. I don't know.
Yeah, I did pretty well, and I'm hoping that keeps me away from actually having to get the flu, because I get that like every other. Anyway, yeah.
I'm glad not to be in like high school or college anymore, surrounded by germy teenagers all the time.
But yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Well, that was our government and politics session. Now we're moving on to life and culture. So on Sunday, November 14th, you and I and John, we went to the Fall Japanese Festival at the Fort Worth Botanic Gardens.
Yes, I actually had never been to the Botanic Gardens before, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. Not just like for the Japanese garden. I was like, oh, well, spent some extra time going around the rest of this place too. It was actually beautiful.
Yeah. It's 120 acres. The whole thing
makes sense once you're there, because you start walking around, and I was like lost in another garden. I was like, so where is this Japanese Fall Festival? I'm like, it's in the Japanese garden. And I was like, where's that? And they're like, it's a little trek. And I was like, oh, Okay, I need a map then, please.
Yeah, it is very large. But the festival is it's annual, so it was a celebration of Japanese culture that included food, traditional performances of martial arts, music, dance, and it featured local artists and craftspeople and vendors of Japanese or Japanese inspired items. And of course, the highlight was the beautiful Japanese gardens at this time of year. So I'd encourage anyone to go, really. There's always something to see there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I really enjoyed the bonsai trees like that they had there, that had all of the curators there too. It was I just love that kind of stuff, and I've spent a lot of time looking at all of those. That was really cool to see.
Yeah, and it's a really good educational source too. So the Botanic Gardens is actually partnered with BRIT, which is the Botanical Research Institute of Texas. And so their website describes the gardens as a living museum of art and nature. And it really, really is. There's a lot of resources there. The gardens has recently instituted a master planning committee to help them grow and maintain their like powerhouse status in Fort Worth as that kind of museum and kind of city hub of, I can go here and see art and nature and learn so much about not just, plants, but also diversity and community. And there was one really good quote that I found on the city's website from Estrus Tucker, who's involved in the public engagement for the master plan. And she said, if we dare to design our strategies and engagements with diversity, equity, and inclusion as our intentions, our natural environment expressed in our gardens becomes an inspiring model for sustainable human communities. And I think that's pretty cool. I mean, observing the beauty and strength that comes from nature's diversity is a really powerful message. So I'm excited to see where they go.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the festival. I thought that it was a great showcase for both the Botanic Gardens to get people to go and see, hey, this is what this is about. And I think it's great that they decided to, host these types of events to, make community awareness and just be and to be in community celebration. It's certainly a jewel down in the heart of Fort Worth that I think everyone should definitely spend some time visiting.
Yeah. And so this podcast is going to come out on December 2nd. And so, hopefully you're listening in time to hear that on December 11th, there will be a holiday in the garden from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Botanic Gardens. So you will be able to shop from artisan vendors, enjoy gourmet food trucks, live local music, and sing some holiday tunes with the Fort Worth Opera. So, and also Santa Claus will be there. So
okay, good. Well, now you've sold me, so I'll be there.
What would you ask him for?
I need a lot of different things, but if I just had to narrow it down to one, I'm I just need a new pair of headphones. I just need to just ask for one thing. I'll wait in line though. I'll wait my turn.
Okay, good. And if you want to see Santa a little bit earlier, on December 4th, there's a Holidays at the Hearth at the historic Log Cabin Village in Fort Worth, which is just down the street from the gardens. Okay. So if you remember from our last podcast, the Log Cabin Village was where Cynthia Ann Parker used to be. Yes. And so it's open now for community events again. So again, this is going to be on, I think it's a Saturday, December 4th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you can celebrate historic traditions with visits and photos with Santa. And there will be holiday ornament crafting, hands-on games. It's a great family event. Admission is $0 to $8 depending on your age.
Okay.
Yeah.
So probably $8 for me.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's
because you're just a middle-aged man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yikes. All right. We're just gonna throw middle-aged out there like that. Okay. All right. That's still a millennial. All right.
Yeah, well, I'm Gen Z, so
okay, all right. Let's go ahead and wrap this up.
All right, you ready to wrap it up?
I'm ready to wrap it up.
Okay, cool. Thank you for listening to the FortCast. This has been Jonah Murray and Austin Hood. Until next time, remember your worth. We'll see you next time.
Woo! All right.
Cool.
All right, throw out a little jig there.